Starting 2 minutes early. 2 minutes early. Hi. How are you? How's everybody doing? I hope people have been having a good day. I've been having a great day. Very busy day. But thought we'd do a couple things different today. Hello. There we go. So I've got 2 different pages set up to go here, and one of the things that I usually do in the final bits of business on a page is that's when I'll sit down and go through it and do the finishing, like the text and stuff like that. How you doing, April? Welcome aboard. So I thought I'd do some of this today, but I thought I'd do it with you because it's kind of boring to, I think for people to sort of see X amount of the process, but not to be able to take part in it. So let's have a little bit of fun with this and do this, explore this together. So just cleaning up. Okay, so this is the finished art for the page today. And hi, Anne, welcome aboard. So I didn't go through all of the parts, the steps that we had initially laid out, and I sort of concised it down. There's the waiter, or there he is giving you the menus. There's the waiter. There's the sommelier, and so I thought, and there's the fish. So I thought we'd bring this together with some text, and I involved you in the process. And in addition to that, I've also got this. So I went through a pile of pages, and in this pile of papers, because I've got the second desk area in my studio now, and that I built, and I'm gonna do a video soon to do a tour of the studio again because it's changed and grown so much that I thought I'd showcase that. But I was sorting some pages that as I'm cleaning up the whole space, and in the course of doing so, I found a whole bunch of pages that I've drawn and done nothing with. So I thought we'd explore this a little bit. Now I can't show it for you, but I've got 6 pages this way, like 6 laid out pages that I just never finished, I think. As far as I can tell, I can't find them anywhere. And I tried to look that up before doing the stream. So I thought we'd take this basic drawing and go over top of it. Let me see. I'm just setting up the pen. So I thought we'd go over top, and draw in all the little layers, and hey, look at me, and on top of just as something to explore. Different ways of doing the digital part of the art. So now back to the first page. So yesterday we talked about the suggestion that came from Anne was a maitre d' at McDonald's and maybe a sommelier too. So that's a really super fun suggestion. And a million different jokes came out of that, but another suggestion also came out for new Olympic sports. So yesterday was a really productive day for that. But so we've got the suggestion: a maitre d' at McDonald's and maybe a sommelier too. That's pretty straightforward. Now what we laid out and I'll put this on camera. What we laid out on a piece of paper was there we go. So we've broken down the page so that into these components. The first panel as it was drawn, there's the fish panel, there's waiter giving out the menu, and I had them walking by customers. I've got a bunch of customer images in there, and I've got a bunch of dumpsters and whatever else in McDonald's accoutrement. And we've got the sommelier there as well. And the only So we got the basics of it, but we didn't add in like pulling out the chair and this, all the little steps and processes, because honestly, you could stretch this out to be a couple of pages, right? And so what we did instead was to sort of tighten that up into just a few panels, and just to keep a more clearly buttoned together story. And so with that in mind, because everybody was having such a fun time yesterday, I thought maybe something that we could do is look at doing the dialogue for this page together and letting people feel interactive with that process. And if people aren't interested in doing that, I will just I'll do it on by myself immediately after the stream. And in the meantime, we can digitally ink this, and I can walk you through that process if people would rather do that. I'm good either way. I'm all ready to go with the inking process. I'm all ready to go because I want to show you a couple little things about layering. But or we could just do the letters. It's up to folks. So first vote wins. So that's how I'm gonna run things in general lately. Do you like my fancy two-fingered glove? I feel like Cher. April's back. Okay, so once again, we're going to choose. Do we want to finish lettering this thing, or I'll just do it after? Or do we want to go about learning to ink this in layers and see where that takes us? First, either one I'm fine with. So it's up to anybody that wants to make a comment in the chat. And if not, I'm just going to flip a coin. Got to find a coin. Digital. Okay. Anne's voted. Digital it is. So I will get this lettered and I will get this posted, and it will follow along with the script stuff that we had, or the story stuff that we had laid out yesterday. So in the interim, let's do this one. So here's how I go about it. I know it's different for different folks, but this is the way I do it. Is that I have got this pencil page. I've scanned it in my scanner, and I've put it in and stretched its dimensions to the average size of a page. Hi Linda, welcome aboard. Now what I'll do is on top of that I'll put an extra layer. Okay, and maybe it'll help if I get my goofy face off here. Okay, so now you can see the layers. So I have added, let me just take a step back. And, okay, so on the side on the right, you'll see that I've popped a new layer on there. So with this new layer in mind, I can do the under inking. And kind of what I mean by the under inking is that the sort of rough background stuff. And we'll figure out where we're going to go from there in a few moments. But what I've got it set to, and you saw the color change over here on the left side at the bottom. So what I have it set to is like a dark umber. And so with that in mind, and I'm on a pencil sketch setting, like a pencil setting, from a pencil that I got out of the Comic Maker's Toolkit, as provided by people that are subscribe to Scott Cirkland, Cirkworks Art Lab, on his newsletter there. So, okay, so we've got this background value, and the reason that I'm calling it background is that it's not an opaque, black, big, deep, heavy color, right? Right. So, so I've got the pencil set up. You can see a couple of the lines I made in the top right. Now, I'm going to pull in a lot closer so that you can see as we're going here. And I'll often do this where I'll draw on different marker or pencil or whatever all at the same time. And you can see how I used to hand letter everything. And I don't do that so much anymore, but I used to. So one of the things that I do when I'm doing the inking in the drawing stage is that I'll do all of the backgrounds. I'll put those in, even if I know for a fact it's going to be covered by the text. And the reason that I do that is so that it affords me the availability of moving the words around, moving the text bubbles around a little bit, and playing with where things are at, so that I'm not really sort of pigeonholed into this is where the word balloons have to go because this is the only space that I've left for myself. So I'm just putting in this background information, and then we'll start drawing these characters in the foreground. Now, the reason that I separate these layers like so is that way I can draw something on top of the next, like something in the foreground on top of something that's in the background. Hi, Chris, welcome aboard. So when I'm drawing digitally, this is how I'll do it, is that I'll start working up what's at the back, and I'll start bringing things forward. The process works for me this way. Everybody has their own thing that they do, but this is how I go about it. So I've got some tree trunks laid in here, and I'm going to shift the value down to a lighter brown. So let me shift this up here. There we go. So this next brown that I'm using is just one step down color-wise. And the reason that I'm doing that is just to give that diversity in the wooded area here. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to a darker green, and I hope this is of use for folks. Now, there's other tools that you can put in your arsenal, other little mark-making bits of business, and what they can do for you is all kinds of interesting and somewhat more complex mark making. And I like that kind of thing. I like the opportunity to draw with different textures, and or to put in. So I'm going to do something really sneaky right now. Just give me a second as my thing is scrolling. So I've got a texture set up, and you can't necessarily see it yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on top of this little layer is going to be on top of the one that we just drew with. And so I've dropped this green in, this green textured box. And one of the things that I can do is I can reduce it down so it's not so much erasing and farting about, but I can stretch it over my drawing for these areas that I know the image is going to cover. And then I can come in with the eraser, the erasing tool, and I can start cutting parts of it back so that while I'm putting in the trees, I'm sort of doing it in a reverse kind of a method, so that I'm taking out the light areas and leaving the green areas in here. I don't know if other people have tried that, but by the way, I discovered the function of Paint Bucket that Paul needed last Saturday on Procreate. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I think he'd really that would help him out to learn that. I think it was the lasso tool, lasso, I guess it is. Just sounds funny. That I was telling him about, that I use that a fair amount. Like if I was to use it, to cut out a space here and then to delete that space out. And I'll show you what I mean. Like if I come through here into the green as I've put it down, and I'm going to cut out this volume of space like so, and then I'm just going to erase what's in that area. And that's what the lasso tool makes you able to do, is things like this. And it sort of expedites your process. It's handy dandy in that regard, but it's also, it can take away some of the joy of the creativity part, but it can really speed up what you're doing. The eraser is so good in digital painting. It is. The erasing things out is just as viable as putting things in. It really is. So we've got all of this business that's coming in here now with the trees, a sort of flat value to the trees, and we can drop another layer in underneath and just yellow this out. It all seems so it all seems a little bit haphazard and random at first. But once you allow yourself, I'm going to fix that a little bit. Once you allow yourself to experiment, to explore with some of these things that you're putting into your composition, it enables for you to build up a little bit of complexity in your art. Now, if you take the line art out, so this is what we've got so far already. Chris says it's not really, you can use lasso, but it's easier to use this one. Set the layer with the lines on top. Select reference on that one, and magically you can add colors to each layer underneath magic. That's in Procreate, yeah. I'm sure you could probably do something, well, that's kind of what I'm doing now, I think, in Photoshop. But, so I'm cutting out some of these areas. I don't have my reference, the underdrawing there, on the screen anymore, because I kind of, it's given its own life now as we're taking things a little bit farther. So back to the pencil tool. I've got this set up in such a way now that I can just keep playing on top. See, this is where I sit on the floor and watch while eating popcorn, so I don't show my lower. Okay, give yourself more credit than that, Rachel. Or April, sorry. Okay, so now I'm coming in with another green, and I'm going to actually step this back just a little bit, and I'm going to go back to the top layer. So the greens that I'm putting down now are sitting in the foreground and on top. And all of the information and development that we've been building up layer by layer, because we're now covering stuff up again with another layer over top that can still be removed, it just lets you build up plane by plane, similar to how Walt Disney did it. Now, this is just how I work. This is just one of the methods that I'll approach it with, so that it's comfortable for me for working. There are other people that are going to look at this and go, there's so many easier ways to do that. And they're, probably right. But this, half of it's got to be fun in my mindset. If I'm not having fun, why am I doing it? It's kind of adding a layer mask or a layer mode on Procreate. I tried it yesterday. It helps to add flat colors in a very fast way. I need to experiment more. Yeah, once you find that rhythm and once you find that approach that works for you, you just start moving quicker and quicker and quicker, right? Bottom line for what I'm doing here right now is this is the background. So it kind of, doesn't really need to be too involved. But I am going to play with some of the shapes and marks and stuff like that as I'm putting them in, because of the fact that I just wanted to have a little body to it, a little character to it. And my intention here is to make this look and feel a little more like an animation, European style approach to a page, as opposed to hard black line North American, a lot of the North American comics. I'm going over the edge. I don't care. I'm playing with all the marks that I'm putting down just by squiggling around and seeing what fills in where. And because it's not, woods aren't opaque, forests aren't opaque, trees aren't opaque. So why not? Okay, so there we go again. And I'm going to jump back into that yellow and throw in some more hits of that here and there. Oh, that's a little too intense. We'll cut that down. You never stay with that tool. So here I am smacking some yellows. Whoops. Jump the layer again into the trees again, and hopefully that gives it enough depth and character for it to be a tree. Chris asks, do I have a tablet or am I painting directly on the screen? This is so I have a 12-inch by 18-inch drawing monitor, and I have it at a slight angle so that I can draw directly on it. The way I have it set up in the studio is I have this monitor right here for me to work on. I have a small television in front of me here that lets me see what's going on with our video. And then I have my other drawing monitor. It's the same as this. It's 12 by 18. That wasn't being responsive for the drawing part. So it just became my second monitor. And rather than constantly having to retool what I was doing at any given moment. So that's how I've got it set up in here. It works for me. I mean, we got to figure out what works for us and then go from that, right? But here's our really fancy, elaborate woodland area as it's all built up. Last two things I'll do is this. I've got a really light blue that I'm going to poke in between the trees in different places just to fly against the existing yellow based palette here. And then I come in again with the white and a light brown, and just little punches through the trees. Oh, April, sit on the floor. April draws the finger. Yeah, we were talking about this last night, Lori and I, and that I work half and half traditional and digital, and so I can't necessarily see myself as a tablet guy. The way that the studio is laid out is that I got the digital working area and a new desk that I built in that is for specifically traditional, and then I have my long counter over here that's all the projects and paperwork and whatever else I have to do at any given moment. So yeah, I can't I've looked at tablets over the last few years. I can't get into it. Now it works really great for other folks, but for me, maybe it's because I'm just being a fussbag, but just not doing it. Doesn't feel quite comfy to me. So I'm just putting little pokes of light through the trees, and then I'm done, and I move on to the next part. Cool setting. Drawing on screen is much better. When I used an old digital tablet, I had my hand drawing on a gray surface, but looking at the screen in front, I got lost all the time. And with Procreate and the brush stylus I have is more organic, like working in traditional. Yeah, super cool. That's super cool. Like, it's, some people say, well, this is the best way to work. That's the best way to work for them, right? We all got to find what works for us. And it's not always going to be the same thing. And you got to figure out what works specifically for you. This is my silly way of drawing in the background, and like I said, it's just the method and approach that I use. Now, there's going to be other things that other people discover over time. They're going to go, this is better. And I might be right, but just this organic development just sort of works for me. So I'm going to take the base color off, and I'm just going to flatten this into the background of the composition. So there's our forested area from our doodle, from our initial sketch. So there it is into the background now. So with that in mind, that same drawing has this. I got another layer here. This sandy beach area, or maybe it's just a green field. I haven't really thought it through too much, but this space here at the base of the woodland area. And so as I'm just sort of scribbling in across here, and this is on a new layer above the forest that we just drew in, right? And if I want this to be more solid, more opaque, I'll just go over it again, because I tend to work up from a lighter value. And the reason that I'm going to backstep that a little bit. There we go. Okay. So the reason that I'll come up and work in parts like this is so that if I make a big mistake here, I'm not going to lose all the woodland stuff because it's underneath. Let me just divide things up a little bit, squish them together as I go. Works for me. So the figures were drawn in pencil and then scanned. Yes, indeed. April says, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Pencil and pen, just scribbling on a piece of paper. And so you can see the grain of the pencil on the left side, and then the crispness of the marker, the blue. So that's Neil deGrasse Tyson I was scribbling there. So I'm changing up the color of the beach area here as I go across, so that as I move closer to our point of view, our where our camera is per se, it's just going to darken up a little bit. Now, I've recently set it so that I can rotate the drawing as I'm working, but I'm not going to do that while doing this right now, because I find it really disorienting. I don't know about other people, but when I watch somebody else doing something and I see him just spinning that image around, I'm like, okay, I can't stick around, because it's a little bit much. Okay, so here's where our composition's coming together. April's doing the happy dance. There we go. I'm trying to make sure I'm keeping up with everything, folks. So we've got these layers of green coming in. All I'm doing is using the swatch palette on the right side that you see, and just picking and choosing as I go, and putting these different colors and values and stuff in the image. I'm not making new colors, which some people would far prefer to do, and they don't enjoy just the preset colors, but I'm good. And it's not the tool, it's what you do with it. Well, I like to use a crimson. That's good. Use a crimson. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here and just put some little highlights and sort of bring this grass area, just unify it a little more. And then I'll come in with the light yellow, just do a little bit more of that. Oh, I spin my canvas both in traditional and digital. I'm coloring a dog now, and he's upside down. See, that's I'll do that as well. I don't necessarily want to do it here and now. And again, because when you're watching that, it just feels a little disorienting. At least I find. So now I'm coming in with this yellow. tying some of these elements together. Again, this background really doesn't matter because the characters in the foreground are going to block half of this anyways. So, I tend not to get too overly particular about it. It's just what it is. So I'm going to come through and punch in some shapes and textures and play with this a little bit. I'm going to put this over top. Well, that's I find these different patterns online. Like this is a piece of parchment paper, but when you lay it over top of some painted imagery, it just adds this kind of neat texture to things that they might not have had otherwise, and it just I like it. I don't know about other folks, but that it makes me a very happy person. So I'm just going to tie these. So there's the texture itself, and which is, step back, put the base in there. So I'm just going to link all this together, and then I'm going to come in, and I think I might drop it inside of, there we go. I know that doesn't make an awful lot of sense in a moment, but now you can see how that texture is within the grassy area and just gives it its own vibe. It doesn't, again, this is his background. This doesn't really matter, but I always tend to find that I'm exploring and playing as I go. Chris says, well, if the background is not the main focus, why are we detailing it? Well, the reason that there's some character to the detail is so that when I'm drawing what's in the foreground, which is the focus of things, then it sort of roots it into some kind of context. There's an awful lot of books out there which are really just talking heads, in the sense that there's no imagery around them. And like in the second panel, having this little bit of business of the trees over here on the on this side, and this little landscape line that moves through here into the water here, where these two are having conversation. Now we know that they're having this conversation, and because in the first panel we've established what the context is, then as we move down in the page we can really simplify that, right? So it's the first panel lets us invest in that. I mean, and as we move along we can do less so. So this whole area, because we have already established that over this character's shoulder on this side is water. So now that we've changed the direction of our quote-unquote camera, we know that this is all water. And it helps to give a sense of framing, and to just give it a little more, I use the word sophistication. See, here's this other image which has the water and a distant horizon on it, and we don't need my name there. And then floating in front of that is a spaceship. But this doesn't make any sense because you're thinking it's a green background if you're only focused on this first panel. But because we've shown the camera turning this way, and then we've, zoomed in a little bit closer to the characters, and we can see a rough idea of this background of the water. So then when we eliminate this guy here and just have, our second dude, we can allow ourselves to explore this background here a little bit more. And while it might not mean the effort involved might not necessarily make sense to a viewer. For us, we know, we have a really defined sense of where things are in this. And, and it's fun. It's fun to play. It's fun to develop our ability. There's little things that I do along the way that just sort of expedite the process. Let me pull this out, and let's go back up to the top. So I've got the majority of this area here laid in. Another thing that I can do is I keep a folder which is just random textures and things that I've been gathering over time. And I can take this, I can copy it, and drop it in the background of this panel, so that now there's that light blue sky that peeks through. Right now it looks kind of whatever, but when I put so this is what it's going to look like in our more finished image. So I've just sort of dropped the sky in there, and if I want to make those clouds a little higher, I can pull that up so that when we see it, where that frame is for the panel, you can see how the sky just sort of fits there now, and it's going to fit in behind the drawing. And it's a quick way of just getting some sky in there. So it's the same as collage, it's just doing so digitally. For a viewer like me, it's the difference between a sentence and a conversation. I have no clue about it, but, well, over time, we figure out little methods and tips and tricks for ourselves as we go. And, that tends to make things flow for us in a different way. My mind is more interested with the depth and the movement. Well, this is sort of figuring out little ways in the journey to establish that depth and that movement. So I put the drawing back in. I've put a new layer above the forest layer, right? And I'm going to switch my palette again to put in the waves in the background now behind our Neil deGrasse Tyson character. I was thinking of Neil deGrasse Tyson when I put this together. We were riffing, somebody and I, in conversation, thinking back on it now, about the television show Cosmos by Carl Sagan in I think it was the 1970s, and then they redid it so many years ago with Neil deGrasse Tyson as the host. There's just something about that Carl Sagan version that there's an exuberance and wonder in there that although Neil deGrasse Tyson is kind of like our new version of like the next Carl Sagan, it's not the same. There's just something about the way that he spoke. So I switched to a lighter blue, and I'm just going to put some accent points in there. And so if I take out that underdrawing, so there's our image now. I can go back into here if I want to and erase back that texture pattern that we had in the area that is under the water. So it's, so you can see that it just ties it together a little bit more by taking that part out. Just gives it its own flat consistency. But there's our background as it's developed now. And again, I'll go about and I'll compress that down. And so that's pretty much the background is good to go in our first panel. And if I take this out, you can see the original drawing. So I'll just paint over top of the original drawing. I'll do the characters digitally on a whole separate layer, and that whole separate layer will sit on top of our background so that they are resting above it, but placed into some sort of context, right? And then, of course, I'll go about and I'll clean up the edges of everything and put some borders on it as we go. But let's keep going here, and I'll go back to our sky. I'm going to copy that again, and I'll just drop that. First things first is that I've just dropped that in behind where the water and everything is going to go on top, right? So we know that's there and that's done and that's good to go. So when the line art, oops, I'm sorry. Let me eliminate this first because that's making things a little confusing. So that when the line art is there, that's what you're going to see in the finished image now. And it just carries over from up above. So if we know where the water is meant to start, and we can see that peeking through that image there, I'm going to jump to another layer on top of the clouds. Words are hard today. And this is where I'll start there we go. This is where I'll start putting in the water in the background. We already established the color of it in that first panel. So there we go. Now, this image is turning again. So we're going to have a little bit of the beach part over here on the side as the camera has been turning. So we're going to see, now what I'll do is I'll take the eyedropper tool and I'll reach back up above in the previous panels. And that is how I'll pick the color that I'm going to use for the ground area as it peeks in behind. Now again, I know that you're not going to see all of this, and yet here I am still putting it in like this because I get to pick and choose where I put the balloons, right? If that, you know, makes some degree of sense there, I hope. Separation with that yellow, and then it's just the same, going about replicating part of this panel up above. Now I can be really cheeky, and I'm a really cheeky guy, and go back in here and capture a load of this stuff that I've already put down, copy it, and then paste that, and save myself having to go in and drawing all of the grassy area and so forth in that lower panel, in that second panel, because I've done a lot of that work up above. And so because it's only a little corner piece of it, why not just, you know, expedite that for myself? So when, you know, and so you can see how it's coming together, and it really looks chunky and clunky when we're looking at like the square line or the flat line that's at the edge of this ground area. But we know that there's a person that's over top of that, right? So that's fine. We don't need to be too concerned about that area. And then we know that the other person is over here. So where this flat edge is on the second panel down, that's covered up by somebody as well. So I don't know how exciting this is for folks, but, you know, this sort of process just sort of moves things along for me. And because the storytelling is really, I really want to focus a lot on the characters in the foreground, more so than I want to be too caught up in carrying on with what's going on behind. So I've got this lighter blue set up as the color right now, and I'm just, did it not pick up? There it goes. And I'm just going to use this to go over top of everybody. I know why it's not working. There we go. Over top of these marks that I've made in the water area and give it a little bit of texture and form. And, you know, again, just a sort of abstract mark making that symbolically represents the water. You know, come in with that yellow that along the edge of the water that we established in that first panel, and my neighbor's mowing the lawn. And come back in with some of that, and then in this area to the left side over here, to the left. Just April says, very much, I'm learning a lot. Oh, that's great. I'm going to come in and put some of these trees. So, sneaky that I am, here we go again. We're going to copy and paste a little piece of what's up above. And we're going to drop that down into this lower area. So I'm going to come in and utilize some of this so I don't have to replicate all of these trees. But there's just a slightly quicker way of doing it. Now there's a stretching tool that is at the top. You can see me lighting it up in light blue right now. And how do you finish it? Send it to my house. Do your lawn mowing? Yeah, I hear you. I'm gonna just keep going over and do mine. No, he was out. My neighbor was out there with no shirt on today, doing some gardening, and you know, sometimes we need to wear shirts. So here is some of those trees like you see up above, and it's really basic and rough and clunky right now, but if we come in and clean that up a little bit, give it some uniqueness from what's in that panel up above, generally people aren't going to be too aware of the copy and paste part, because it's just a little piece of background, you know. So there I go, filling in some of these areas, and I'll come in with a white and pop some of that away as well. Just fun, just having fun. Hey Jim, how you doing, sir? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jim Luan. And I'm going to come in with those little brown trunks. Got some more of that activity going on in here. So there's our background and our next panel down. So we're flying, folks. It's a fast and clunky way to go about doing it, but it just keeps things moving along. And then I compress those layers together. And now I'm down into these two layers. Now this layer has nothing really penciled into the background. And that, you know, it's entirely up to you if you want to continue painting in the context around them or not. Because we know that there's going to be the whole thing revealed here. So we can use this as an emotional moment, this third panel down, and just fill it in with a color value, you know, to sort of emphasize what's happening, or to play with some kind of effect on it. Like, I am Neil deGrasse Tyson. I've been exposed to the cosmic perspective. that's my Neil deGrasse Tyson impression. So with this, I mean, we can do a couple of things. One is with this whole revelatory statement that he's making, one of the things that we could do is to put down, some sort of illuminating quality to this character, so that we can put, we can use our effects. We can go in to our little arsenal of different mark making tools and whatnot, and we can play here. I'm going to put a box up above, so we can play here a little bit with this panel and really have a go with the fact that here he is, I've been exposed to the cosmic perspective, and so we can just play with that and illuminate him like he's a star. I'm going to duplicate that and flip it. I'm going to put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Why am I not... There we go. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to 180 this. And in that way, I've got that illumination going in both directions in equal amounts, even though the source that I used for it, or the brush that I used for it, only went one way. So there you can see the crazy light pattern that's emanating behind him. And, there he is. He's Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's shiny. And I got this orange back there. Now I can put a little stroke effect on the yellow, and so project all this white out from that. I can also go in and put some white that goes directly over top of it. And then bend that around, just for fun, just to really push that. Whoops, that is the sound of me missing something when I'm doing that. So there we go, Neil deGrasse Tyson, glowing from the inside out. So there we go. So there's that. Now before I save this or compress this down, I'm just going to compress this part that we just made, this shiny glowing bit of business. And the reason that I'm going to do it this way is that I am going to go back up above and erase out the crazy light effects and that are going over the panels up above, so that when I compress down, I'm not making a mess out of the previous panel that we did. So when I take out the line art, you can see that those crazy marks, those rays of light, don't go over top of that second panel now. So now when I compress our panels down into one, and the reason that I do that when I'm done something like this is that so I don't go back over it again. So now as we move down lower, we will resume with the background like we have it up above. So we're going to use this beach area, and we're going to paste this just because we can, and then we can just there we go, stretch it out. There we are, and then I come in, I'll copy this part, And I got that now to use. I'll throw that over here. And we know that you're not going to see what's underneath anyways. So let's see if we've got the whole area covered. I don't think we do. I think I got to pull that a little more over that way and then stretch this a little more this way. So there we go. There's all the water. Instead of having to draw all of it, I have cheated and I have scanned it and dropped it down. So now we've got our water in. So we know that it's not going to matter because his body's there, and I'm just taking that out just to show you that. Like so, just so that makes sense why I did it that way. And then I'm going to go over to our Fandango of the Clouds. I don't know if that's a real thing. Anyways, and I'm going to drop this in. And then throw that up in the sky in the background. Pretty sky, beautiful sky, beautiful sky. There we are. So, my sketch that has clouds drawn in it like so, well, you know, there's the clouds. I don't have to paint every single one. Fandango of the Clouds is the next Pink Floyd album, says Jim. Yeah, that's probably true. So there's our lower panel, and I mean we can, you know, build up a little bit more on the water if we feel the need to, but ideally I want you focusing on the craft in the sky. So with this in mind, here's our, and I'll pull out so you can see the whole thing. Oops, let me step back one. There we go. And so here's the page now with the backgrounds in. And there's the page to be done and the layers of all the characters that are on top. But there's our backgrounds put in so that now we're just drawing over top of that. Works for me. You know, is it the way I do it every time? No, but I do tend to have a little bit of fun, you know. But there's our overall setup for the backgrounds. And we can do another effect over top of the spaceship that's in this bottom panel, which is similar to what we did with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And have him, you know, because he's saying such a profound thing. I've been exposed to the cosmic perspective, you know. So, yeah. Also, that's a true quote. True, whether or not I believe in it. That's a real Neil deGrasse Tyson quote. So now I got to decide what color am I going to use for the line art, and we've got all of this yellow and green and blue going on in the backgrounds. Now I'm going to go to a deep blue for the line art for the foreground, and the reason that I'm going to do so is that it just sort of plays along with it. Hey, welcome back, Chris. So I've got the background set up. We know that's there. Okay, and we've already accounted for the spaces around, you know, some of the areas are going to be covered up by figures, so we didn't worry too much about having to paint in the entirety of the scene, right? So that's why we got this sort of a hodgepodge thing, and we know we're going to divide the gutters up in between the drawings, so we didn't worry too much about that. We don't have any overlap, but we tend to play with going to the edge of the other one. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to put a layer on top. Let me step back and get my face out of the way. Okay, so you can see on the right side, now we've got this here. I'm going to take the view off of that. It's still there, All right, that's how I'm making it appear and disappear. But I'm going to put a layer on top of it. So that's what the blue area is highlighted on the side. And I've got the brush. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Okay, and we'll scroll up to that first panel. And so now on this layer, all right, with the setting I have in that pencil layer, I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw the line art that is going to be in the composition. And this will be, instead of using a black line, I'm using a dark blue one. My opacity is set down, so if you can see at the top the number switching around. So my opacity is set down from 100 so that I can work up some lines and have those lines tone out as with the pressure that I put on the pen, instead of just all my lines being these crisp black solid color. Chris says, I'm back. The cats wanted food. Now! Yeah, I made sure to feed the cats before I started the stream for the exact same reasons. Oh, just getting announcements. There we go. So, all right, so I'm going in and I'm penciling. Now, I've got the rough drawing in the under layer, but it doesn't mean that I can't develop it up a little bit more in the inking layer. Play with that a little bit more. I cannot draw a circle to save my skin right now. There we go. So here is our glasses wearing fella now. So it's, it's replicating the lines that are down, but it's also adding a little something to them. I can't just draw something and ink over top of it the exact same way. I find it really boring. And I am a giant fussy monkey. Also, I don't know when I drew this. I know it was some time ago. So there are approaches that I might take now that are a little more involved. The line work that you do to represent things changes over time. So you can see where the lines that I put down now, not entirely the same. Now, other people draw with these beautiful, crisp lines. It's practice and it's, technique, and it's probably some other functions that you can do to make your lines more clean. I don't know any of that jazz. I just throw some lines down. Just cut some shapes. Where are we at? Am I missing stuff? Just want to make sure I'm not... So here is the new drawing as it's going in now. And there's his fingers as he's touching the side of his noggin. And we'll slightly change the setup and the shape of the doodad he's holding to his ear. Chris says, I have difficulty with lines, digital lines, I mean. Well, I tend to draw with them you got to find the right, I think, pencil setting first and foremost for yourself. And the one that Scott Circlin has in his for free with subscription to his newsletter, and is a really good one that he's put together here. It really is. And I was looking for a decent pencil to use in Photoshop, and I was having a bit of a challenge with that, and then I came across Scott's, and this is the best one I found. So, I'll go in and clean up some of those lines with the eraser or whatever. But for the most part, it lets me put down the lines I need to put down. I don't have any complaints with it. A little bit of cleanup, right? Now I'm going to draw his hair in fully here, because I don't know if the panel's going to be that big or if I'm going to keep it there or not. So there's our first guy. And there he is over the background. So, this void that's underneath his body, you can see it really doesn't matter, because we went over that less developed area with the figure of our first character. So it, and then you can do another layer in between, and start to fill in. Give me a second here, and you can start to fill in the color of our character. Let me make that a little more solid. Just this intense pink right now, but just bear with me for a sec. Point is that when you go in and you color within the line art here, now you can see how it just sort of pops over top of everything below. This isn't normally how I do this, but it works for showing. You can color with the lasso tool as well, like this, but it's the space in the back where we really didn't finish the entire grassy area doesn't matter, because it's covered up by him. And then we know in the original art that border along the top is going to, here we go, disappear. So if we take that out, we can see the panels start to come together now. So that's how I go about drawing a digital page. I hope that this isn't too boring for folks, but hi Susanna, welcome aboard. So let's go back to the line art. Let's get this out of the road, and we can remove that color. We don't need to see that right now, but it just helps us know that this guy's done. So back to the line art. Now I've got these random shaped characters in the background, and we can come in and define them a little more clearly now. But I think that I get the gist of the joke of these guys, and here's all these dudes on the beach, completely oblivious to whatever's going on in the foreground. But as I'm inking it, I'm drawing in them a little more defined than in the initial sketch. Hero of the beach. These guys, I don't know if they're wearing sunscreen or not. So here's the question, folks. and I'll let you guys decide. Are we going to do Bermuda shorts or are we going to do Speedos? What kind of outfit would these guys wear? And so by putting this guy's body in behind our foreground character sort of lets you, it's a subconscious thing about letting you know that he's in behind the other. Speedos, there we go. Boy, a lot of those Speedos roads came in. Anyways, so there's our first guy, and in the background. So if we, remove our line art, you can see how that's coming together now. And then let's just continue on. Now that line is hard to see because it's over top of a darker line underneath it, but put the hand of DeGrasse Tyson in here. We're gonna develop it a little more, give it a little more shape to the thumb. See? And then when we're drawing his outfit here, we'll give a little more shape and form to the arm and the little fold in that. Where are we now? There we go. It's coming together. Chris says, when someone is attractive, I think you say eye candy, right? In Mexico, as tacos are a big thing, we say taco de hoyo. Eye taco. When someone is attractive. Eye taco. That sounds like a Richard Bachman book about a post-apocalyptic. That should star Will Smith. That's the sequel to iRobot. Or Omega Man. iRobot, iTaco. Yeah, eye candy is a term used up here. I don't know that everyone uses it, but some people do. So here's our guy who is but is not Neil deGrasse Tyson. Changing that hairline slightly. Just to give a little slightly clearer shape to the head. I want to move back on that eye a little bit. It's just too heavy. Okay, so that's better. Bear with me a moment there, folks. Let's see what, there we are, we got that coming together. I'm going to fix the side of his face a little bit. Like this line. Cuts in too much on the cheek. Oh, I'm missing stuff. Hunks and Speedos. Are Speedos? It's an awkward question, but is that a hunky thing to wear? Let's take a poll. Okay, so here is our Neil deGrasse Tyson, and in behind him I've drawn apparently another muscle-bound hunk. Flexing his business. So we'll just put him in. So now if we take our line out here, get a little more definition in this guy. A little more development as a character. There we are. And we know that the panel is going to end there, so we're good with that. So here's some of our guys coming together for this first panel now. And, you know, as we develop this, as we go across, we know that these guys are covering up the water area so that it sort of roots them in the environment, but at the same time, you know, they stand separately from it. And we can do some things to tie these guys more clearly in, you know, to the background area. We can, you know, pick up characters and move them around if we need to. But let's just keep going with the line art. In fact, I think I might populate things a little bit more here. Like I think, let's put another person leaning back and doing some sunbathing while Mr. Machismo is flexing a pose. We'll have his partner. Actually, I think I should put that foot down there. That's my racing sound. You like it? Oh, what am I doing? Move the leg out. That's what my problem is. There we go. And this also establishes that these people are in behind. But it sort of ties it together, the one side of the drawing to the other. We know that there's no text in that spot, so why not, right? The aliens will take the attractive guys in Speedos. Hey, Marsh, how you doing? So, we've got our characters coming together. And we'll put some luxurious hair on this person and fix that perspective on the arm. You know, I've got my veneer device for clicking these buttons quicker so that I'm not reaching around too much, and for whatever reason I'm just in a weird zone for drawing. So yeah, welcome aboard, Marsh. I hope you're having a great day. There's her second arm there. Put that, there we go. Okay, so then we can put, let's put an umbrella here. Yeah. So there's her beach umbrella. Rooted in the sand and little bits of business around her. There we go. So there's actually, yeah, this can go a little further out. So there's our populating our drawing just a little bit more than the initial rough sketch, right? Just giving it just a little bit something more as we go along. So now we got our background. We know that all these characters sit in the foreground of it. We've already colored this guy in to show that. You know, if you know we feel the need, we can come in and fill in all of this business as well. Oops, wrong layer. There we go. So I'm just being silly there, but showing you that they all stand above the background. So the fact that we haven't painted in this entire area doesn't matter because they're covered up. And as we pick and choose the colors of their outfits and their skin and their so on and so forth, it's just a base color to sit over top of it, just to separate one layer from the other for ourselves as we're working along. There's a million different ways that you can do it, but that's whatever works for folks, right? Some people won't do that at all. They'll just go straight into the drawing on the same layer, so on and so forth. But you can do fun things in between layers if you get used to the habit of not having it all in one layer. We could put smoke between the guys in the foreground and the background, Chris says, the guy could be Don Johnson, Miami Vice vibe. There you go. Marsh says, doing good, just working on brainstorming my next comic. Making moves. I like that. I like that a lot. That's great. That's great news. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Yeah, you gotta figure out what's next, right? I've got one of the sections in the studio, the long counter that I have. I do piles for upcoming projects. So I sort of lay them out like, here's what I'm working on now, here's what I'm working on for somebody else. These are all the one-page things I've done recently. And here's the dream thing I'd like to do down the road. And in setting those projects up in an organized way helps us to organize ourselves for one thing. But it also helps us to keep on top of our processes. So the dream project I like to do, if I'm coming up with research for it, I'll just throw it in that same pile as my notes and my rough sketches or whatever else. And this project here that I'm working on, if there's reference material or whatever it is that's being gathered together for that, I'll put it with that pile. The bookkeeping goes in the bookkeeping slot because, bookkeeping. It's fun for everyone, folks. But I'm sure that everybody has their own organizing ways they go about things. But I tend to work on a number of different things simultaneously. And so that's how I have to organize myself. I like the piles. Yeah, got to pile it up. Okay, so let's pull these two out, put this back in, and go to the right color, and we can finish in the rest of our bodybuilding types. So I'm doing this by panel really to just sort of show as we go along. Another thing to consider, now I'll pull back, this is of benefit too. So I'm going to name my layers, and this is important for your processes for some people. There's the pencil, I could also call that ink. There's your colors, I probably misspelled that. Here's your flats layer for that, the basic background. So this is our flats. this is our colors. This is our pencil or ink. And then this layer is going to be our roughs. And that is the actual drawing itself. So naming those layers really helps some people out. Let's see, Marsh, what's good for you? Basic to high intermediate levels. Halfway through my final exam marking now. But where am I through working out now? I can hurry. I can give those grades next week. Oh, and then you'll have some free time for working on some stuff. Marsh says I'm trying to come up with stories to go with different crafting approaches. Example, a comic using jelly plates or a comic using punk collage. Why not do both together? But yeah, it's see, there you go. There's another example of keeping yourself structured a little bit and allowing yourself to explore. Okay, so I'm going to put the frame in, and so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this big old rectangle in, and the reason that I'm doing this is because I know that this is where I want, and I've got a new layer for this, but this is where I want the outside border. So when I'm done doing the art, I'll stretch it to fit this, to fit in here, so that the stuff that you see that's short on the right side, that white line that's there, well, we'll pull everything over, right? Hey, Jim, good to see you too. There we go. Great stuff. So I'll go and lay in. Now we know that these are horizontal layers, and that I put another layer that sit on top of the one that I just did. So when I put the stroke line down for it, I can delete out the gap below it, and then I'll just use that same setting for each of the divisions in the panels. So then I'll just come through and clean up my edges. So there's the borders on the panels. Whoops, sorry about that. A little overzealous there. So I'll come through and I will flatten my borders down to one layer. But what this gives me now is I see how things are going to fit together. So I know that I need to stretch the art over to the outside edges, and then I'll cut off and clean up this external edge, like in the flats here where all of this stuff bleeds on the outside, and you know, I'll clean it up like so. So this way I've already got the structure of the page together on the stuff that's going into panels. There's equal division between the panels, the spaces in between, the gutters it's called, and I've got, you know, everything moving apace to the way that I want it from how I have, laid it out initially. Now it's not exactly the same. I've changed the shapes of things a little bit, but that's all good in the hood, folks. So this is, it's fun. I find it fun to sit down and to put the pages together this way. And of course the last thing I'll do is the text. Mark says, Jim, I've been playing around with the Fresco on iPad. There's some pretty cool animation things you can do on them. Maybe worth checking out if you haven't yet. Oh yeah, that's great advice. Right on, right on. Okay, I'm going to take the colors out, the flats, and I will go back to my pencil stage and, you know, keep putting in that finished line work. Clean things up a little bit as I go. Now, one of the things that I can do right here is, I'll show you something. as I'm drawing in this character in the foreground, and I'm putting in the shape of his hair and stuff, I can make a decision at this point to pop that up above the panel, right? So then I would go into the border layer and erase out the border where that is behind his head. Chris says, gotta go, gotta fix the lunch. Hey, have a great day, Chris. Thanks for coming by. Susanna asks, do you always begin with a scan? Maybe it's not a bad idea. There's something already there so people don't face a blank page. The blank page is subjective because you got a blank page that you're drawing your image on, right? It's not to say that you can't forego the initial drawing and still do the same stuff where, you know, you're drawing your character and you're working that out on the surface of just the white area, because there's a lot of interesting things that you might discover, you know, just drawing and scribbling and having fun this way, that you would have left out for yourself if you've just gone and done the tracing of your existing drawing, right? Like you can put interesting textures and shapes and stuff in here. It's just playing, just having fun, you know. But don't let yourself ever feel like the blank space, the blank flat white background is going to have any control or any power over you, because it just doesn't. You're in charge. It's your Jim Jam. You can do whatever you want. You can stretch the size of things. You can, you know, you can come in and erase out of your own pictures. Like here's, you know, taking this fleshy area out, using the eraser and cleaning up some of those lines around there, and you know, don't feel like there's anything that you can't experiment on a flat white background that you can't do on paper. It's just a case of experimenting and playing and developing that up as anything else. I tend to find that there's all kinds of interesting things that you can do digitally that you might not consider doing. Let's see. Here's like putting the skin tones in using different brushes and different tools, and you know, it's a strange headspace for sure, but you will find different things as you explore one application of one tool to the application of another. I don't know. Some people say that there's a huge difference in what you draw with, whether it's digital or it's traditional, and I think it's just application, same as anything else. I got a lot of silly pens on here. Brush tool, pencil. There we go. So yeah, allow yourself that exploration. Allow yourself to give it a go, to give it a try. And I correct my drawings as I go. If I'm going to do stuff digitally, I'll correct some of what I've done with the roughs. Like I've changed the shape of this guy's head and, you know, pushed it outside of the panel from the way the rough was. Raised his hairline, raised his glasses. You can see in the first panel at the top there, I rounded his chin a little bit more. Just play. Just play. Marsh says, I agree, experimenting digitally can be just as satisfying as experimenting with the physical media. Yeah, it's the same as anything really. Just get in a sandbox and make some castles. your first castle's going to look terrible. Your next castle's going to be cooler. Everything's the same castle, right? Yeah. Okay, so here's where we're at now. And see, I'm so weird, I might even leave I might be so weird as to even leave some of the roughs in pictures sometimes. I don't make an awful lot of sense, honestly, but I have fun, and that's where it's at. So yeah, so I'll get this thing finished up, and I'll get the text on today's page and put this up, and then get these things both. I'll get the one posted today, and I'll get the other one posted tomorrow. Arsha's combining both is fun too. Yeah, I tend to do a lot of stuff traditionally, and then I do the finishes, and I always do the text digitally. So yeah, I'm a big fan of amalgamating them, the different processes. But I thought I'd just walk through playing with doing a page digitally today. And even though I had a traditionally drawn start for the page, I'm still playing and pushing where that initial drawing went and adding to it and developing that a little bit more. But it's a great rough, it's a great start to how you go about things, but the way that you're going to approach it digitally it's a completely different road that you're driving on than if you're going to do it traditionally. But have fun. But that's about it for me. I've got a couple things I got to do before I go meet Lori at her office, and then we go for a nice little din. So thanks very much, everybody, for hanging out. I appreciate, as I said, and I'm going to keep saying it, I really appreciate everybody picking up the book and the nice things that people are saying, and the reviews that people are leaving on the Amazon site. It really helps out. And I'll be on the Artcasters to chat with the fellas on tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. I have a hard time remembering what day it is. And then Paul and I will be hanging out on Mr. Pate's Saturday morning cartoons on Saturday morning as well. So if you guys are able to come and hang out, it's a lot of fun. Watch for the times. I'll post those as well. So, and in the interim, I hope that whatever you're working on, if you let people know, so we can come in and encourage and support you as well. So thanks very much, everybody, for hanging out today. I hope you have an awesome day. I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. I hope to see you then. All right. Thanks very much. Bye for now.